Oh hi, it's your old buddy Zoo again, and today we have the Kinhank K56. Now our old buddies Can and Hank are consummate professionals when it comes to making consoles, from tiny little Japanese SNES boxes to very powerful Android TV boxes. But they haven't made a ton of handhelds until now. I think they made the K36, but that's about it. This love child of the Anbernic 505 and the Powkiddy X55 has a lot of good stuff going for it, like ergonomics and a big screen, but it has kind of a new and unproven chip, so there'll be a lot to unpack. So go ahead, get yourself situated as we dive into the Kinhank K56. So what do you get with the Kinhank K56? Well, it's a very ergonomic Android device with a 5.5-inch 1080p screen. It has a Unisoc USMS 9230S processor. That's a mouthful. It's also a chip which hasn't really been seen a lot in this space, but it's roughly equivalent to the Unisoc T618 chip, which was featured in the X05 line of Anbernic devices from a few years ago. So like the 505 here, the 405M, the 405V. Now those devices performed extremely well with everything up through and including N64, Dreamcast, and PSP. And with some driver optimizations, like with Gamma OS, we were able to make some decent inroads into the 6th generation of consoles, like PlayStation 2 and GameCube. The K56 has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which will give you maybe 7 to 8 hours of gameplay, a lot less if you're trying to push PS2 or GameCube. It has 6 gigabytes of RAM. It comes with Android 14. It has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Hall joysticks. They say they're Hall triggers, but I don't know about that. It has dual speakers, downward firing speakers, 128 gigabytes of onboard storage, and it will support up to a 512 gigabyte SD card. And here's what she looks like. I picked this blue one because it was the most garish, like, non-traditional color scheme. You got this super dark blue and this orange buttons. I like it. I like it a lot. It's kind of ugly, but it's ugly in a good way. You know what I mean? You got your fan on the back and an exhaust on top. You have these very, very ergonomic grips on the side. This is actually very, very comfortable to use. You have some pretty basic and clicky shoulder buttons, triggers. All your face buttons are on here. You have an SD card on the bottom, USB-C on the bottom, headphone jack on the bottom. I like that. And really nothing on the sides. You have your power and your volume on top. And then that's it. You have this beautiful 5.5-inch screen in the middle and your face buttons. You have your Hall joysticks on here, so you shouldn't be getting a ton of drift, if any. And the face buttons. Let's go over the face buttons real quick. Like I said, the shoulder buttons are pretty clicky. These buttons, they're not super quiet. D-pad's pretty good, not super loud. Your home and your back, your Android buttons over here, they're not super loud. But your start and select, unnecessarily loud. I just somehow open up the wallpaper screen. Oops. D-pad's pretty good. You can get a little bit of false left and right if you're rocking the bottom, but you really have to crank it a little bit. Otherwise, face buttons are good. They're all, watch out. Trying to pay attention here. They have a nice travel to them. They don't bottom out, and they're also not too proud. So I got no real complaints about that. The only thing I really have complaints about are... God, that's loud. That's so loud. Trying to play this in bed next to someone? Sounds like you got a mouse from 1995. You're trying to play Command and Conquer. Let's do some quick comparisons. First off, we have the Anbernic 505 with an extremely similar chipset, a slightly smaller screen, and a much more boxy rectangular shape. You can see this is a lot thinner because this has butt doots. I like butt doots. The closest comparison, and the one that jumped to my mind immediately, is the Powkiddy X55. It is extremely similar to the X55, but it's not a direct copy. You have a bunch of different input and output on the top and the bottom, so that's not the same. It does have that kind of batarang shape. They both have nice butt doots on them. Otherwise, I think it's more of a superficial similarity, but they are fairly similar. And then we have the mini X55, the Hella Galilee Pi, and there was some confusion. I think there might still be some confusion if the Hella Galley and this Kinhank are made by the same company. There are some similarities when you're looking at them on, images online, But when you have them next to each other, you can see that there's some subtle differences. Like the sticks are not the same sticks. The buttons, not the same shade of orange. They don't have the same feel even. This D-pad, super stiff. This one is a lot better. So they look kind of the same, but I'm pretty sure they are not the same company. If anything, this looks like a little mini Powkiddy X55. Real quickly, let's talk about price. This is going for about $127 right now on AliExpress, or you can get it straight from Kinhank. It's going to cost $150, but there are some coupons you can use. So let's say this is $150, but you're probably able to get it for $130 if you use coupon codes, including coupon codes that may or may not be in the description of this video. For $130-ish, you're not getting the absolute best price to performance out there. It's not a terrible price, right? 130, 140-ish. It's not a terrible price at all. The only issue is if Ambernick or AliExpress or someone's running a really, really good sale, you might be able to get one of those 405 or 505s for considerably less than this. And then for a little bit more, you're starting to edge into Retroid territory. So it's not the best price in the world, but Kinhank does make up for not a bargain basement price with a curated experience. Speaking of price, do you know where you can always get a good price on PCBs, 3D printing, or CNC work? That's right, PCBWay. PCBWay is your one-stop shop for all sorts of tinkerer projects. From new aluminum shells for your existing handhelds, to building your own handheld from scratch, like this absolute lunatic / Chad who made his own Raspberry Pi handheld from spare electronics components and literal cardboard. That's amazing. If you've got any interest in modding retro handhelds or just building your own cardboard handheld from scratch, again, amazing. Kinda stupid, but amazing. Be sure to check out PCBWay today. Boy, that ad came out of nowhere. Anyway, back to the action. Now, Kinhank consoles in the past have always had pretty good ROM sets, but just recently they started shipping with Pegasus. Now, this handheld ships with an Emulation Station, a Kinhank version of Emulation Station Desktop Edition. It also has Pegasus. Now, I don't know if Ken and Hank paid for their own version of the Kinhank front end. I don't know if they paid for Pegasus. I hope they did, but part of me suspects they may have not. As I mentioned, Kinhank also ships these devices with a ton of games. This is really good for brand new users because these game lists are fairly well curated. They come with all the metadata, all the box art scraped and loaded, and the emulators are already pre-configured to run out of the box. So you don't run into any configuration issues out of the box. You don't try to open up Basket Brawl and it loads the wrong emulator, or there's a configuration issue. It just opens up and it works, and it has bezels and it works. That's super important for someone that's just getting into the hobby or someone who wants to buy this and not fiddle fart around with it. Now, whenever I've done a Kinhank video in the past, there have been a lot of people who have been more than open about commenting that they have moral qualms about these devices that ship with ROMs. Now, I would hope these people have millions of dollars worth of original stuff at their house. They have meticulously ripped from the original carts and original CDs. They've made it into a curated collection of their own, and then they flash that onto a fresh SD card every time they buy a handheld. I mean, that's obviously what's happening, right? Wink, wink. But you know what? If that's the case, this setup isn't for you. It's not for you at all. This is for someone that wants to plunk down $150 and get all the games they remember that work right out of the box. I do have one big issue with the game library though, and that's the amount of ROMs you get for some of the systems. So this will ship with either a 64GB card or a 128GB card, and the cost difference is just $10, so I ended up getting the 128 version. It has near complete libraries for all the lower end systems, but it just kind of craps out when it comes to PSP, Dreamcast, and PlayStation. PlayStation is probably the worst example because there are like 19 games. And a lot of them are forgettable. Like, oh, I really want to play Casper. Or The Emperor's New Groove. Or everyone loves to play Earthworm Jim on PlayStation. Yes, my favorite skating game, Grind Session. I mean, just, ugh. Now, PSP here only has 60 games, but a lot of them are actually certified bangers. Which, I guess in retrospect, makes the PS1 selection even more confusing. Now, I get that storage is an issue, but maybe they go with a 256 card for a more complete Sony library. I don't know. Now, you could always download the games yourself, but since this system seems so geared towards a brand new user with zero setup experience, it kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. Let's go over these front ends that were included. Here we have Emulation Station, and the experience of this front end has the double-edged sword of having so many games and so much metadata and so much art that it can get a little bit chunky. And actually, I don't think this Wheel of Fortune style theme lends itself to massive libraries. It gets sluggish on systems with a ton of ROMs. So you have WonderSwan Color, it's not doing too bad. But then if we go to Super Nintendo where there's like 2,000 entries, it's just a little chunky. It's not the end of the world. It's just noticeable. They also have the game sorted by developer by default, which is okay for small systems, but you can't find anything in larger libraries. It's super easy to fix. You hit Start, you go to UI settings, go all the way down here to Games Default Sort Order, and I set mine to Name Ascending, but it's just a weird default to have chosen to have everything grouped by developers. Like, who wants to group their stuff by developers? I don't know. Other than the sluggishness on systems like Super Nintendo with 2,000 plus entries, I really like how cozy the Emulation Station interface is. I find myself stopping and reading some of the descriptions of the more Asian or European focused systems, and then I can peruse through the box art and read game descriptions. It's very chill and nostalgic, and it reminds me a lot of the days where you were at Toys R Us or like Video Game Trader, and you could spend an hour or so just reading the boxes, looking at art, and picking out a game that was probably going to be a turd because the great box art never really synced up with the great gameplay. It's usually like inversely proportional. The box art was amazing, and then the game was an absolute turd. Getting off topic. Now, Pegasus here doesn't have any of those issues Emulation Station had, at least that I could see. And I actually found myself using Pegasus more than Emulation Station, even though I thought Emulation Station was more visually appealing. Pegasus doesn't have as much of the nostalgic charm because it's just a straight grid of boxes, but it's much more efficient, especially with larger libraries. You still get your descriptions and stuff, but for me at least, it's not as cozy. I don't really know how to quantify it any better than saying it's not cozy. It's effective, it's efficient. It doesn't give me a warm, fuzzy feeling looking at stuff this way. Maybe it's just me. Some Vice City on the PSP running at 2x. Whee! And I mean, this is smooth as butter. Oh, sorry, officer. You okay?
A few minutes later.
I'm a political prisoner. Hey. Just casually slide into the mission.
If you want Mary, she's at a party up on Starfish. I'm heading over there myself.
It's a rough day. I really doubt we're gonna make it to that party. Mona? Mona, you might want to just get out of the car. This isn't gonna end well. Now, Ghost to Sparta will run at 1x. Pretty smooth. There's a little bit of slowdowns, but otherwise it's actually very, very playable. This is... Shut up. This is a sneaky good PSP machine, honestly. Ah. Calm down. I'm trying. Try to avoid a copyright strike. Out of the way. Now this is running at 680p, which is twice native, and it's super, super smooth, super responsive, super fun to play. Whoa! Pay attention to what you're doing, Zoo. Jerk. Now, Cruising USA is one of those games that I think it ran at like 25 FPS on the native console, but we're hitting 30 pretty consistently here, and most of the other N64 games I played in testing ran absolutely fine. So this would be a pretty decent N64 machine, especially with this second analog stick mapped to the C buttons. And yeah, hasn't really dipped underneath 29 FPS yet, and we're playing at 2x native resolution. And this is an extremely challenging N64 game to emulate. Whee! And since you are running Mupen 64 Plus here, you can always go into your settings and change your display. I hope you know Chinese, because some of these settings are in Chinese, but otherwise it runs fine. See, a lot of these systems, especially the 4x3 ones, but even Game Boy Advance here, they have these nice bezels. You can always turn them off if you want. Hey, Zoo Publishing. I actually probably would turn it off for Game Boy Advance here to get more of the screen. They're not too bad, and especially for a brand new user, it just makes the whole thing feel like coordinated, coherent. Oh, and the stick is also mapped to the D-pad. So if you, getting tired of the D-pad, there you go. Oh, and all your basic RetroArch shortcuts are in there too. Pretty cool. Well, Gary, it's time for What Did We Learn? And we learned that the Kinhank K56 is a very sturdy, decently ergonomic Android handheld with a very nice 5.5-inch screen. The price is kind of high, but the setup and configuration is excellent. Kinhank has consistently done a really good job with their consoles over the last few years, and it shows with the curated set of games you get with this. Murky legality aside, this could be an amazing option for someone who just wants to plunk down $150 and play anything from Atari all the way through PSP with absolutely zero messing around. Now, a lot of us in the hobby like to tinker and fine-tune ROM sets, but the number of new people who want to just pick up something and play it is extremely, extremely high. And as this whole hobby gets a little more popular, I feel like these are the kind of handhelds that are going to sell well because you can just set it and forget it. I mean, it's not the Dial-O-Matic by Ron Popeil, but it's pretty damn close. So I guess I would recommend this very, very strongly as a device for an absolute newcomer to the hobby. But for more of an established user, I'd probably tell you to either lean towards something that's a little bit cheaper with similar power, or save some money and buy something with more power, like a Retroid RP5 or a Flip or something. But you'd have to have the understanding that with those other options, you'd really need to either provide all of your ROMs or tweak the existing ROMs that came with it and tweak all the emulators. Whereas the Kinhank K56 here, it just works straight out of the box. If you thought this video worked straight out of the box, I don't know what that means, remember to like and subscribe and all that jazz. We're grinding our way towards 100,000 subscribers. And then this train has no brakes. We're going to keep going. This train's either going to go to the moon or it's going to careen off a cliff. And either way, you're probably going to want to stick around and see what happens. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.